Okay, so this video is for those of you guys that haven't didn't actually learn how to use your graphing calculator very well in pre-calc or math 3, and for those that need a refresher. So if I want to put this function right here into my calculator, so this would be like y equals, and remember the calculator, it's not going to do t's. It actually will do t's when we do parametric equations, but that's not what we're doing. Okay, so I'm just going to go in here to y equals, and I'm going to clear out whatever's in there. And I'm going to put in negative, and you got to make sure you use the negative and not the minus sign. Okay, the x, trying to find a place where it's not glary. Okay, so the x is right up here. Okay, so I've got negative 16x squared plus 80x plus 96. Now, if I were just to graph this as is, because a lot of times we just said, oh, hit zoom and hit standard, number 6. That just gives me a standard window, which goes from negative 10 to 10, negative 10 to 10. You can see that it doesn't even look like a parabola, like what we're looking for. And that's where you have to make sure that you're able to adjust your window to find what we're looking for. Okay, so here's one thing. We know that it's going to take 6 seconds. Okay, so we're okay here. I probably don't need this very back part here on the graph. So on the x right here, so all I did is I hit window. I'm going to make x min like maybe negative 5. I think x max at 10 is fine. Okay, and I'm going to hit graph. Now the problem is it's way higher than what I've got here. And we know that the rock was originally 96 feet. So don't go by the fact that you have this graph right here. Go by like what you know from the problem. So it's about 100 feet up, and let's say that they throw it, it goes about another 100 feet up. So you're kind of guessing based on the problem. So the y value right now, the maximum y value is at 10. And I'm going to change that to go to 200. Now, the scale right here needs to be changed, because watch what happens if I graph it now. Okay, so just barely made it in there. Okay, so see how that line went dark? And if you have one of the older calculators, it gets really thick right there. So I'm going to make this go a little above 200, because I like to have a little bit of space up at the top here. And I'm going to say, let's go to 225. And I'm going to scale it, maybe I'll scale it every 25, but it'll put a little mark. Okay, so now I have a good view of that. Okay, so if we had to make a T-chart right here, we're going to go into the table, and I'm going to set that table up first. So I'm going to go over here to table set, which is a second window. And I'm going to start at 0. And then this says, well, how do you want the table to change? By 1. Okay, so then I go to second table. And there's my numbers. Okay, so I can see that these numbers aren't really in the domain. They don't make sense. The rock's not going to go underground. I could go backwards if I want. Again, not really in the domain. So that's how I get a T-chart like that. Now, one thing you have to be careful about is that this T-chart did not give us the maximum, because it was at 2.5. Now, so I want to be able to find that maximum. So I'm going to go back to my graph, and I'm going to tell the calculator, find the max. Okay, so I'm going to calculate right there. So second calc, number 4. Okay, so you have to read these directions down here. The calculator can't figure out where the max is. It wants you to give it boundaries, a left boundary and a right boundary. So I'm just going to go to the left of it. And now it wants me to go to the right. And don't be shy. Like some people put these boundaries right next to each other. You know, make sure that you give it enough room. Then it wants me to guess. I'm gonna go, okay, I think it's right there. The guess doesn't really matter. Okay, so this is telling me that at 2.5, the max is 196. So I could add that in, that at 2.5. Oops. Okay, so another thing that I want you to make sure that you can do with your calculator. Let's say that I gave you this and I said, okay, I want to know where the rock is after 2.11 seconds. Well, you could go in and change the table. So I could go in here to table set, and I could say I want to start at 2.11. And then I could go to the table, and I could get my answer out of there. But let's say that we're getting a bunch of like really weird values, and you don't want to keep resetting up the table. Okay, there's our old table. So what I want you to be able to do is to work with your function. So remember that we put the function right in here in Y1. That holds that function. Okay, so I'm going to go out of here, second quit, and I'm going to go to this button down here that says variables, but it looks like VARS. And I want a Y variable because that's where I put my function. So I'm going to arrow over and number 1 because it was a function. So I'm just going to hit enter. And we put it in Y1, so I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so now whenever it's flashing like that, it's telling you that it needs some information. It wants to know, okay, well, where do you want to evaluate the function? So I'm going to open parentheses right above the 8 and put 2.11. Okay, and there's exactly where it was. Now, let's say I wanted it at, I don't know, 3.459. Well, I don't want to go through all of that again, so I just hit second entry, and it just brings up what I was doing. And I'm just going to go right back and type right over it. I don't remember what I said. Let's go 145. And enter. And I have that exact spot. Okay? Now, let's say that I wanted to know how long did it take for the rock to be exactly 100 feet above the ground. Well, that's not in my table. And that would be really kind of hard to work with. So if I wanted to know how long before it was exactly 100 feet, well, there would be 2 values for that. Okay, one on the way up and one on the way down. So the only way, there's no way that we can give it a Y value. The only way we do that is we would go into Y2 and we would say, let's let that equal 100. Okay, so watch what happens. That's just going to be a horizontal line. Okay, so these are the values right here, the X values. So I'm going to figure out where they're at. So I'm going to calculate that. So second, calculate. And I want to see where they intersect. Number 5. Okay, so all the calculator wants to know is what's the first curve, what's the second curve. So it's on the blue one, it's flashing, and it's asking you, is this the first curve? And I'm going to tell it yes by just hitting enter. Okay, notice it now moved to that one. Is this the second curve? Yeah. And the reason it's doing that is we might have 5 or 6 curves on here, and it doesn't know which ones you want to intersect. Okay, now it wants us to guess. So I'm going to go over here. I'm arrowing right in there, and I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so it tells me that after about 0.05 seconds, it was up at 100 feet on the way up. Okay, if I want to know where on the way down, I can do second intersect again, or second calc, intersect. Okay, first curve, yes, I hit enter. Second curve, enter. But now I'm going to go, and I know those are really close to each other, but I trusted the calculator. Okay, so after about 4.9594897 seconds, on the way down, it was 100 feet. Okay, so let's make sure that we checked off everything, that we know how to make a T-chart. We got the coordinates of the vertex. Oh, I didn't show you that, did I? The zero function. Okay, we did the variables, the vars function. We did this. We adjusted the window. We made a T-chart. Okay, so the zero function. Okay, so let me go in here. I'm going to clear that. Oh, shoot. I didn't want to clear that. I'm going to clear that. Okay, so I'm going to go back, and I'm going to put this in again. It was negative 16 x squared plus 80x plus 96. Okay, so if I wanted to find the maximum under calculate, second calc, number 4. And again, I got to go, oh wait, we did that. We did that. Okay, let's do the 0. Okay, so let's go to the 0. So second calculate, number 2. Okay, left bound. Let's look for that 0 right there. So I got to be on the left side of it. This is going to be kind of hard to see. I'm going to hit enter. Then I'm going to go to the right side, which it seems like it's below because it is. Enter. But see how it's, you want to look right between those two lines? Wants me to guess. It's about right there. Now, this is in scientific notation, so be careful, because that's 1 times 10 to the negative 11. That's 0. Okay? When x is 6, y is 0. Okay? Okay, that's the basics that I want you just to make sure that you know how to do no matter what. All right.